are you doing, my little fawn?
Playing with Grandma's dollhouse.
What game?
I'm playing you when you weren't a mom yet.
Can I play? I'll be Alex. Hey, cutie. You come here often?
Hi, do you want a baby?
Oh, this is moving a bit fast. What the heck? Let's make the best little girl on earth.
Of course you'll be the best.
How do you know?
Well, I'm the one making her in my belly, so...
Talking to you was intoxicating. Every time you opened your mouth, I was expecting the unexpected. I loved the way that your little brain continually managed to make sense of the world. But that day, the most astonishing thing was your assurance. How on earth did you have so much trust in me?
Damn, June, I can't believe it! I'm going to be a dad! We're going to be parents! When I got your picture, I yelled so loud I think 3 guys here had a stroke. I'm just unable to focus on work. I'm so happy. It feels so... I feel like it's going to change my life. No, I mean, it's going to change me. Like, I'll never be the same again. I can't wait! And you, what do you think?
I think you should take the afternoon off and come home.
Oh, okay. But why? Is there an emergency? Do you need me?
I don't need you. But I am wondering what it's like to have sex with a dad.
Wow, what a weird thing to say. I'm on my way.
He was right, you know, your dad. When you arrived, he changed to his core. Before you were born, he was always a bit lost, a bit wandering through his own life. But from the day you showed up, it was as if everything had become clear for him, as if he finally understood what he was doing here.
Listen to me, Junon. You and Alex brought an extraordinary little girl into this world. Astrid was our sunshine, She gave us all a lot of light all through her tiny life. You were able to make such a being because you have it in you. The sun. And the sun never goes out. It shines. So hang on. And shine bright. I know you can. I'm proud of you.
You and Marie have a connection that's peculiar. You used to spend hours in her shop watching her paint. She loved that you were so curious. She smiled at you, explained stuff to you. She asked for your opinion about her work. Can you imagine? When I was 4 years old, I wasn't even allowed in her damn workshop. But you had something inside of you that completely changed her. Actually, I think this is what saved me that day. The idea that even Marie could be touched by a ray of sunlight. There had to be one out there for me too. It might be the right time for me to admit it, my little fawn. You don't have magical powers. You never had any. You didn't put us under a spell. Not Marie, nor your dad or I. It's easy to hide behind the fact that your being there made everything else possible. And to convince ourselves that your not being there is forever locking us out of being happy. But that's not true. The seeds that allowed us to change were always inside of us. Sure, they were buried deeply, but they couldn't wait to grow. And you were simply an incredible, a wonderful beam of sunlight.
Do this to me, Mom. You don't have to do this to yourself. How much longer do I have to make you miserable?
My little fawn, I can't do this to you. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive myself for what happened, but you've brought too much light in my life for me to reduce you to that.
What is that? Mom, what do you mean by that?
You know what I mean.
I do, but I'm not sure you do. So I'm going to need you to say it. What is that?
The accident. It was an accident.
Yes, it was an accident, Mom. I lived a life full of joy and laughter and vibrating plastic lightsabers.
You shouldn't ever have found that. And it wasn't a lightsaber.
You think I don't know that? I lived a great life full of love. I will always love Dad, Marie, Diane, and you, for everything you've given me, for the cozy spot that you made for me in your lives. And then one day, there was an accident. It was an accident. Say it again.
It was an accident.
An accident. A disaster. A calamity. There's nothing to forgive. It's not your fault. You know that, right? Deep down.
Do I? Then why do I feel all this guilt?
Yeah, that's another mystery. You're angry. But are you sure that you're angry at yourself, Mom?
I don't know.
I believe in you. You'll figure it out. And when you do, you'll make the right decision. I think you're ready now.
I'm ready. Thank you, little fawn. Thank you for your help. You can leave now. I've got this.
I know. I love you very much, Mom.
Me too, Astrid. I love you very, very much. I know you'll always be with me. I can feel you are here, and it gives me strength. And I'm going to need a lot of that if I'm going to go in there. But Marie needs me, and we have a lot to talk about. I guess I should have asked the doctor to give me a little something before I went into this room. You don't get free samples of benzos every day. All right, Junon. Cut the bullshit. Hi, Marie. Sorry I made you wait. I had to sort out a few things. A lot of things. But anyway, you knew I was coming eventually, didn't you? You've always had this weird gift of knowing what we're about to do before we even think about doing it. Once again, you were right. I'm here. But I almost didn't come in. I was close earlier, but I just stood outside the door. I was angry at you. I don't even know why. I mean, you're not exactly the warmest mother in the world. Still. Why are things so complicated between us? Why do I always feel so threatened when I'm around you? Come on. A crucifix? You? Wait, is it... I remember now. I've seen this before. Was that last night? Oh, shit, no, it's all hazy. Hold on. What's that around your neck? Is that a cross?
This? It's a childhood keepsake. I found it in my stuff a while back.
What? Were you a choir girl or something?
It's a bit more complicated than that.
I'm listening. Please, you never told me anything about your youth.
What the heck? After all, why not? That might do me good. And I owe you that.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. Just shut your mouth, pour me a glass of wine, and listen. We used to live in a small village in the east. Grey, boring, and hideous. People were dumb and mean, always keeping tabs on others to tear them down. And of course, these fakers were in church all the time. I spent years in that cesspool, never asking questions. When I was 14, let me tell you, Jesus was my best friend. I would tell him about everything I did wrong in my head. And let me tell you, I was a terrible kid. Nosy, ill-behaved, always running around. A tiny devil. And also, I had this desire and fire in my chest. Nasty thoughts. But I really thought that he loved me as I was. Back then, I had 3 sources of comfort. Jesus, books, and drawing. So I spent an insane amount of time sketching in the neighborhood churches. It was a disease. Everything I laid eyes on had to end up on a sheet of paper. At least then, people left me alone. Otherwise, let me tell you that I never got a minute of peace. Family with 4 kids living in a 2-room apartment. So, I looked after them. Washing them, doing their homework. I was the oldest, 7 years ahead of my oldest brother. Those little ones were like my own kids. My mother had too much work. At least, while I was taking care of them, I didn't have those weird desires. My dad always had a steak on his plate when he got home. Every night. My mother used to say that he deserved it, working his ass off at the mill for us. But one night, I was still awake when he came home. He was completely shit-faced. He was living in the fallen world. The steel industry was his life, but his life had no tomorrow. So he drank. That night he looked at me weird. I didn't understand. I felt guilty. We were two peas in a pod, my aunt and I. She was the whore in the family. She didn't want to settle, she didn't want kids. She had escaped to live the crazy life in Paris. Freedom. The exact opposite of my mother. One time, she told me something about my mom and dad. Something that blew everything else up. There was an evening dance. He was 19, and she was 15. According to my aunt, he was a bit tipsy. He brought her into a small clearing, and there, he forced her. They had to get married in a hurry after that, when they learned that my mother was pregnant. Pregnant with me. My mother always worked her butt off. She would work one factory job after the other, then clean up rich folks' homes. I used to think she was the bravest person in the world. And the strongest. Of course, she had her own temper. She would get into these screaming matches sometimes. And she would drink too. But I was convinced that I could trust her. One night, I went out with some girlfriends and boyfriends. We only went to the movies, but she lectured me. You're bringing shame on this family, she said. People at church are talking. Something bad's gonna happen to you if you keep tempting men. I answered that if it ever happened to me, I, for one, wouldn't marry my abuser. She hit me. For the first time. She hit me again later. I was getting slapped around because she hated her life. I was blaming her for not fighting back. I wasn't going to let her treat me like this. The day after, it felt like a spell was broken. The church stank. The sculptures were ugly. And the male-dominated Jesus stuff made me sick. You don't love me, I whispered to him. Bastard. At that very moment, and that, let me tell you, that's something I'll never forget. The Christ started to bleed. I had my first period right after my tantrum at the church. I was already 14 years old. Pretty late. But then, my body started to develop. The more my body changed, the more my father scared me. Hell, he terrified me. Not just because he was domineering and brutal. It was uncomfortable even being in the same room as him. He was always watching me, commenting on my clothes. I felt like a piece of meat. The last time she raised her hand to me, she hit me so hard. My nose started bleeding. We were having another fight about one of my outings. By that time, I was going out for real. Just to spite her. You know me. She called me a harlot. So, I bit back. At least I'm not gonna stick with the first guy who knocks me up. I didn't have time to finish saying it. whack, she slapped the shit out of me, and she spit out. If it were up to me, you're the one I would have dumped. It's stupid. But that struck me right in the gut. And that's when it came up, boiling. The rage. I tasted blood in my throat. I couldn't think straight. My ears started ringing. I felt a jolt running through my body. And then And it was over. I couldn't walk it back. This cross is the only thing I have left from her, you know? I took it when I left home, that very night. I stole it from her. I don't know why I took it. I used to do that a lot back then. Steal stuff, but I'm happy I did it. It gives me a chance to think about her, to remember, never to be like her. You see, I'm always telling you to face things head on. But that day, I left. I met with my aunt in Paris, with just a few cents in my pocket. I never saw them again. Not her, not him, not the kids. And I never turned back. You hear, Miss Kivas? Shit, don't tell me you fell asleep. What a disaster. You really can't handle your booze. Don't worry, daughter. I will still be there tomorrow, and the next day too. There to tell you again what you already know. People are ugly, let me tell you. They're dangerous, all of them. That's just the way things are. It's inside them. The evil is, we need to defend ourselves. Stay vigilant. That's how I got out of it. Jen gets it, I think. But you, darling, you're too weak. You want to trust people. You want to have faith, but I told you many times. You can't trust anyone. Ever. You don't need me to tell you that. Life's unfair. That's just how it is.